Okay, welcome back, friends, to Believe You Are a Good Mom. I have a special guest today. Siri Payne is here. Hi, Siri.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I will let you introduce yourself to get us kicked off. Tell us all about you, your family, your business, all the things.
Okay, all the things. This is the least favorite part of any podcast, but I will do my best. So I am Siri, like the iPhone, as you said. I coach women entrepreneurs, and we really mainly work together on like productivity, time management, and schedules so that we can create something that complements your business strategy so that they can create successful businesses while also being great moms without sacrificing the roles and the values and the things that you want to accomplish as well, the things you value most. Let's see, a little bit about me. Prior to becoming a life coach, I was a special education teacher and I taught for many years. And while I was teaching school full time, I was also working to grow my business and serving as the president of the women's organization of my church. And so doing all of those things while creating my first 100K in my business, a bunch of other coaches and a bunch of other business entrepreneurs kind of said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Right? They started asking me for time management, organization strategies, and the rest is history. I guess, well, maybe it's not really history. It's actually playing out quite nicely right now in real time. And this is what I do. I help other women be able to have successful businesses while they are also being successful moms.
That is so awesome.
It's fun. It's so fun to create that. The scheduling is fun, right? The strategy and all of that, but also just that confidence that there's room for both if that's what we desire. About my family, I have 3 daughters. I had 3 girls in 3 years in 3 different states. I started my business when they were 11, 14, and 15. I have been married for 23 years. And during that time, our first 16 years of marriage, we moved 18 times. And so I kind of know what it's like to feel busy, to feel like you have a lot going on, but also have a desire to do more. And so that's kind of where I have landed with my coaching as well for my clients.
And how old are those daughters now then?
They are big now. They are 16, 18, and 20.
And so are they home still?
They
Or
are
in
not.
college or
The 20-year-old is married and she does go to college. She's in nursing school. The 18-year-old also goes to college down south where we live. And then my 16-year-old is still home.
Wow. So wild.
Yeah.
Does it feel like just yesterday you were in my shoes with the littles and all of a sudden she's married? That's crazy.
It does and it doesn't. I mean, like I always tease, I'm like, when you move 16 times in 18 times in 16 years, I don't really remember.
Seriously.
So people say like you're going to go back and miss it. I don't know that I would miss it, but I wouldn't mind going back and just having an opportunity to just kind of redo some things or try, or, not out of regret, but just like, I wouldn't mind. I guess that's what I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking to a friend last night about how the seasons of life are so unfair. Like that whirlwind. It would be nice if it was like 1 week of toddlers and then a week of teenagers and then back to a week of babies and then a week of adult children or something. So you can like enjoy it because it's not so much all at once, like totally overwhelming.
I love that, like that cyclical phase, right? Like,
Yeah, that
okay,
would be nice.
right. I did always wish them to be bigger and now they're bigger. I said, I don't know that I would wish them to be smaller, but it would be fun to like go back with all the learning and all the growth that I have now to be able to be like, oh, what would motherhood have been like?
Exactly. But that's not the plan, apparently. So we just got to
right.
deal with what we've got. Okay. So there are so many things we could talk about in this realm. Mostly because I need coaching on this. Why have I not hired you yet? So okay, I want to talk about, because what you blew my mind with is we all talk about balance all the time. And it's kind of an elusive concept, kind of like patience. Like, when are we gonna arrive at having enough patience, right? So we're sort of looking for a work-life balance. We're looking for like a balance in just all the tasks, right? Housework versus like spending time with the kids versus working on our business versus spending time with our husband and doing the dishes and dinner and all the things, right? So time and productivity, just tell us, how do we balance all of this?
That's a great question. So let me tell you 2 things. Okay. So when we feel off balance, it's because of 2 things. You know what? Probably really 3, right? So there's comparison. We have expectations. And then the third one is probably being overscheduled. And we truly are overscheduled. And then we're like, oh, I feel overwhelmed and I don't feel balanced. Most of the time when you come to me, like we are putting more in a day that can realistically be possible. But let me talk about those first two, right? The expectations and the comparisons. So we can't do it all, of course, but we think that we can, right? That's what we expect. That's what we think we should be able to do. But what we can do is what's important for us and then what we prioritize. And of course, that's going to be different for everyone. And so that's when we really realize what it is, what are our priorities, what do we want, then we get to, right, achieve more of that balance. So when you are spending your day doing things that complement your priorities rather than competing with them, you will be able to feel more balanced and less overwhelmed. And so lots of times as women, we are competing with what I'm going to call comparison. So let me show you how comparison may affect our ability to feel really balanced. So it's very difficult to achieve balance when you're comparing yourself to either other moms, right? Lots of times you say, oh, they're able to do, fill in the blank, or they can do that, or they make it look so simple, right? Or then we compare ourselves to what I usually find most clients are comparing themselves to past versions of their motherhood, right? I used to be able to, do X, Y, and Z on less than 5 hours of sleep, or I used to be able to be like this weight or work out consistently, or I used to make homemade dinners or celebrate every holiday with decorations, right? It's that comparison that we have either to other moms or other women in our lives or to our past versions of ourselves that really help us to feel unbalanced, right? It creates that unbalance in our life. So we are, and this is what I have to try to tell people, but I think they get really scared when they have this permission, but they are the best people to be able to decide what is enough for them, right? What is balanced for them, for their family, for their present circumstances, right? You are that person that is the leader of all that, right? I give you permission. So if you're not feeling balanced, it's like you're probably looking outside of yourself, right? You're looking outside of what you really want and your priorities. So just really notice that when you're not feeling balanced, just compare yourself. Notice where you're comparing yourself to past versions of yourself or to other women in your life.
So good. And I'm comparing myself to you right now because you just explained like so succinctly what I took like 40 podcasts of blah, 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 like trying to explain what you just explained, like in 2 minutes.
Well, that is my strength is simplicity. So
don't
compare myself. We all have our own strengths, right?
Exactly.
And mine is like, get to the point. I also don't tell jokes very funny. I'm not also like a party. I'm not super fun. I mean, I am, but because I'm just very like to the point. So play in your strengths. And maybe that's another one, right? To feel balanced is use your strengths. Don't beat yourself up or try to do something that you're not good at. Like if you don't have a desire to do it, because we should be just living in our strengths, because then we actually become better at our weaknesses when we are leading with our strengths, because we're more excited to do that thing, right? So if you're not a Pinterest mom or you're not I'm not a huge carpool mom either, or Pinterest for that matter, but like some moms are like, no, I want to take my kids to school every day. It's the time I get one-on-one time with them. Well, great. Then totally do that. But I was like the carpool queen, right? I'm like, I'll take them on Tuesdays and you Wednesday and you Thursday, right? The least amount of time in the car. But I then found other ways to connect with my kids, right? So leading in what your desires and your strengths are what's going to make you feel more balanced than anything else in this world.
So good. So good. So I agree with all of that. And my mind is like in a million places because I feel like I've had a podcast episode on like every little point that you just made. And my carpool experience is like, I don't want to, we live within walking distance. So I'm like, that's why we live here. So get out there and walk. And they're like, but it's cool. And I'm like, that's nice. See ya, And then I see all the other moms walking their kids. And so I'm like, oh, I'm such a bad mom that I don't want to walk my kids. I'm like such a slacker that I'd rather stay in the warm house and like send them off in the cold. And then I find excuses. Well, the babies aren't even dressed. I can't take naked babies out in the car to drive them to school. And all the drama that we create in our brains. That my trick is to you just drop the war with it all by believing that you are a good mom. So if we're not trying to prove we're a good mom by driving our kids to school so that we can be like, see, brain, I drove them like the neighbor did. I'm a good mom. Like if I don't have to prove that to myself by doing any certain thing, then I can do all the things that you're saying. I can focus on my strengths. I can focus on my desires, what I even want to do, versus like trying to fit into some mold that's just not me.
Right. And it's funny to think the story is that makes her a better mom. I mean, not that we want to discount what they're doing, but we don't know if they woke up late. We don't know if they are taking them to school out of necessity because they wouldn't have had time to walk to school. We don't know if she didn't feed them breakfast or they're in the car,
Okay, sorry about that. I had to hit pause because my naked 3-year-old came in the room. Can't be having that on video because I'm not kidding. The babies are naked and I don't. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So we're talking about, we don't know what the other mom's story even is. Why are we making it mean that they're a good mom, that they're driving their kids to school, and I'm a bad mom because I'm not? It's all made up.
Right. And maybe they're on their way to work and they're going to be at work till 9 o'clock at night. And that's their time with their kids. So I'm not trying to say like, use their story to be like, oh, I'm better than them, but just stop. Like you said, drop the story.
Yeah.
Just, we don't know why they're doing that. And if they're on their way to work, it would make sense anyway. So like, of course, but if not, like, we just get to be a good mom doing whatever we're doing.
Exactly. So good. Okay. What else did we talk about? We were going to talk about, because the teeter-totter. Tell us about the teeter-totter.
Oh, yes. Okay. So balance. A lot of times people are like, balance really isn't possible. Like you said, it's kind of like that elusive thing, but I really believe that balance is possible. But here's why, right? Because balance is a feeling, right? It's not an action or a set of things that we do to then achieve our balance, right? We just get to decide if we feel balanced, right? We get to decide what makes us feel balanced. What are those actions that we do? And of course, it's going to be different for everyone. So don't be looking at someone else's like scale, right? To see if you're balanced. So when we know our priorities, right? And that's a big, huge thing I talk about, your top 5 priorities. But when you know them and you're able to focus on them, then you know what you're scheduling every day, or then you know the choices, right? Like I feel balanced by not taking my kids to school. And then we just get to schedule, like, that's not something I do. And that allows you to feel more balanced, as long as you can, of course, drop that war, like that you need to be doing that, right? When you know your priorities, then you know what to say yes to, right? You know what to say no to. And when you have that in check, that's how you're able to feel like fulfilled and satisfied. And then that keyword balance. And so how I like to explain this is balance. Like I like to think about like a teeter-totter. Right. So if you think about a teeter-totter, let me get like a pen, right? And people think that this is a teeter-totter, right? Like this is what it does, right? And so this though is a very exhausting teeter-totter, right? This means you're like on this side and you have 10 kids on this side and you're like, don't move, don't breathe, because then we'll move, right? Because that isn't balanced. An actual balanced teeter-totter does this, right? That means the teeter-totter is balanced, right? When it's doing this. And so what we think is we have to keep our life like this, right? Nothing movement, but really that makes us very stagnant, right? That makes us not feel like we are moving and progressing. And so when you think of life like, okay, we have our priorities, we do something here, and then like maybe you're working or you're cleaning your house or setting a goal, whatever it is. And then like your kids come home from school, right? And so then they get a little bit of attention. And so this is what I say is this is what a balanced teeter-totter is. And sometimes we're up in the air a little bit more with some life circumstances that may be unfortunate, but eventually we're like, hey, but this is the priority right now. And then it kind of you can get into a state of mind, or you have time that you can kind of be like, give it a little less attention, right? And then whatever was, I don't want to say neglected, but whatever was at the bottom is now at the top. And so that's what I like to think is when you realize that our life is meant to do that, you get to feel more balanced, because we're not spending the same amount of time in any priority. And we think we need to, but I'm like, no, you're not spending the same amount of time with your kids as maybe you are with your workout or your spiritual study or whatever it may be, right? It's not going to be a balanced amount of time, but it's just, I feel balanced because I really lived in my priorities.
So good. Yeah. So the visual that I usually have when I think of balance is a pie chart.
Okay.
So like you say, and I'm saying like, this is not useful the way I've been thinking about it. So you say we don't need to have a balanced amount of time with each priority. And that is where we get confused, I think, is that we think, oh, if my family and my kids are my priority, then I should be spending the most of my time with them. But then you try to do that and your kids are just playing. They're kids, they can entertain themselves. And you're like, but I need to spend time with them so I don't feel guilty that I did some work just now. And then, but they don't even want me to be. So it's like, I take my laptop downstairs. The kids are just playing by themselves. So nice. And I'm working and I'm there if they need me, and they don't need me. So I can get some work done at the same time. And I can kind of do workarounds like that, where it's not like I'm in my office and she's banging on the door and I'm feeling guilty that I'm like, go away, I'm working,
Right.
versus like, the amounts of time. And even like parenting experts say they only need like 10 or 15 minutes of quote unquote special time a day, you know, where it's like undivided attention on them. Like a little bit really does go a long way. So obviously 10 or 15 minutes in my business is not going to do that much, but 10 or 15 minutes with them is going to, you know, fill their cup enough that they know that I'm there. I love them. We've had that connection time. I don't have to spend hours upon hours reading them books all day long to feel like I'm a good mom. Again, I can just believe that I am a good mom and that my desires matter and that I care about this business and I want to help other moms and all the things. And yeah, so it's not
Can
a pie
I
chart
add to
of
that
like,
where I call there's math and drama in our life, right? And
mm-hmm.
sometimes when people are like, oh, you can just believe you're a good mom, you're like, well, how do you just do that? Right. And so my clients usually will come to me with all this drama, right? I'm a bad mom. I don't do this. I don't do that. And I like to put them into math. And here's the math of that situations where you can actually believe that 2 + 2 = 4. And you don't have to just believe, right? It's almost like a teacher being like, well, just believe a negative number or that C is really a 2, just believe it. And you're just like, how is that C, right?
Not.
In our equation, a 2.
Yeah.
But here's how it can be is when you really figure out your priorities, what a lot of us think is like being a good mom means I spend time with my children. Right? Makes totally sense, right? But I call that a soft priority, meaning it's about like other people, right? That's the O. It's about the theys, the thems, like a good mom should do this, or I want them to like me better, so I do that, right? A soft priority is the shoulds, right? It starts with that I should do that. But when you can create a priority that doesn't have your soft, right? I actually call it like a true priority because it doesn't have those soft things. That's when you realize what you really want as a mom. And it's not to spend all the time with your children, but you just think that should be your priority because we don't know any better. But when you work with a coach or you work with someone on your priority work, I have found that most of the time, the real priority is to have a relationship with your children. Right. So that's where the math comes out that yes, in 10 minutes a day or at bedtime, you read them a story. That is what creates the relationship. It also drops the drama that good moms spend X amount of time with their children, because then when you don't, right, you're like, oh, I need to be spending 23 hours a day with them. Well, then that's never going to happen. So you're not going to feel balanced, right? You're going to feel like you're not good enough and all of that. So if you can realize what is your true result you want as you spend time with your children, and if it's to create a relationship and you can do that in an hour a day, well, congratulations. I just saved you 23 hours in your day because you no longer have to think I need to spend every second that they're home from school with them. Yeah. Right. And so that's where you can say I'm a good mom, but you can also have like evidence because these are the things you want to focus on. And if you're doing that, like I just have women pick like 3 things that may be like, well, we're going to eat dinner together. I give them a bedtime story. And when they're in the bath, I pull out questions of would you rather jar, like, would you rather eat a bug or a worm or something like that? And they do those 3 things. And if they feel more attached, more secure, more, like their relationship with their child is strengthening, then they get 30 or 40 minutes a day to strengthen that relationship. And then everything else is just bonus, right? If you play the Barbies or if you play the Legos, that's just bonus. Yeah. Right. And so I really like to help my clients get into what I call math so that you can believe you're a good mom and you have evidence because of the results that you're creating in the steps you're taking.
Yeah. So good. So in the example of the carpool, we'll go back to that. So if my my true priority is connection with my kids, I am not feeling connected with them when I'm stressed about all the traffic and they just got in the car and hurry up and get in so we can get out of the line. And you're holding up the show. Let's go. Versus like I have my schedule. I have my alarm that goes off on my phone to watch for them to get home. And then I'm all present for them when they get home. And we have this beautiful connection versus what I know it looks like when I pick them up from school. So all because the neighbor is doing that, or because I've construed some story that to be a good mom, I need to do that. It's actually counterproductive to my what is it? True priority.
Yeah. Your true priority is to connect, right? It's usually a connection or relationship. I'm going to give you the cheat sheet. Like it takes an hour for us to go through it, but it's always those 2 words. But you just then decide, I shut my computer, I leave my office, I'm present when they walk in the door or whatever it looks like for you. And when you decide that, you're like, yeah, I don't take my kids to school, but this is what I do. And I just like, I had written in some of the notes, I don't know if we're going to get to it. So I'm just going to like,
do please.
But the mom that I used to be a long time ago when I had my 3 little kids, right? She was getting everything done, right? She was like, well, I dropped them off the Carpool Hill. We lived in West Virginia and it was like a 10-minute drive to school, but there was this random little hill and it was a 15-second hill. So my kids literally went up to school both like in the snow both ways. And I'm like, you guys tell people that, but I digress. I just did everything, right? I made it look easy, but here's the thing. I didn't really have a good attitude about it, right? I didn't really love the things I was doing. I was just doing the stuff because I thought I had to, right? Or I thought that's what good moms do. That's what good moms should. So everyone wanted to be the mom like Siri or whatever, right? Like I was the poster child, but I didn't really enjoy what I was doing, right? I just thought I had to do those things, right? So when it is at the expense of our happiness, right? When we are doing things just because we think we're supposed to do them, then we aren't really being the good mom because we're either beating ourselves up in our head, or as you said, we're reacting like, hurry up, get out of the car, because you don't want people to like think that you can't handle your kids and they don't have their shoes on and you're holding up the line, right? So what I want to share with you is the mom that I am now is still amazing, but I do way less of those things than I used to do, right? I say no sometimes. I say no to carpools. I say no to midnight, but can you pick me up? Nope. If you want to hang out with your friends, I'll pick you up at 10 or you find a ride home because I don't want to stay up till midnight. But I wasn't always that way, right? I know that I'm more involved because I want to be. Right. Like now that it's my baby, like I want to be involved in her life. I want to have her friends over. I mean, I've always kind of been that mom, but like I want to be the mom and do the things because I'm enjoying them. Right. Yes. And so because of that, I promise you, and this is like when I want to say let things go, but it's not actual things that you're letting go. It's the mindset of things you let go. When you can let them go, as you say, drop the war, you will enjoy your life so much more than you ever did. And you will accomplish a lot more in your life because you will be doing things you want to be doing in your motherhood. And you will be doing it with more, satisfaction and more balance, more than you would be if you're checking off everything off the list. So I still present as that mom that gets it all done, but guess what? I do it so much more happily, more balanced, right? All of that. And so it's just, I give you permission to drop the war that's literally going on in your head about you need to do X, Y, and Z and go, do I really need to? Like I was raised in a house where we clean the house from top to bottom and we're talking baseboards and toilets every day before school. So I really just didn't know that we didn't have to. So when I had kids in 3 years, I was cleaning all the bathroom toilets every day. Got to a point we lived in one house with 5 bathrooms. We were just renting for a period of time and I locked 2 of them. Because I'm like, we're not doing this. But so my kids had to go up 3 flights of stairs if they were in the playroom to go to the bathroom. But it's because I thought I had to clean it every day. But now I'd be like, whoa, if I could just clean it once a week or just whatever, right? Like we just get to decide. So just notice like a lot of our things that we're doing, we just don't know that that's not how it is done. Like I didn't know, I was never at other people's homes. I didn't know you didn't clean the toilets every day. Like I just thought that's what you did. So when you can let some of those things go, you get to be doing things that you want to do. And then that right there makes you a better mom.
Yeah, exactly. That's always exercise number 1 is to list out all the expectations, right? That was one of the first 3 things you mentioned at the beginning, because our list of expectations for ourselves is mostly unconscious. And so we have to like literally see it to see how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
And to question it, be like, do I really need to wash the toilets every day? Total joke. If you saw my house, you'd be like, oh, I guess it is optional. There's a reason I like doing it. I'll continue to do it. But for me,
we know we're doing it for what we want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I want a clean toilet and once a week or once a month or whatever it is for you is what works, right? It's not about what people think or what. I didn't even live in the state with my mom, but what if she came over and saw it? Like, I don't remember what I thought. I really just thought it's what you did. I'm kind of a rule follower. And so it's just like, I just followed the rules, which is really interesting because I don't in my business or my motherhood at all. I'm like, you do what you want that makes you happy and you lead with your strengths. And I even have a house cleaner now. My mom almost dies, but I'm like, why would I want to clean my own house? I mean, I still do, but like every day or, like she doesn't come every day. She comes once a month. Yeah. But when I have these other gifts and talents and I can help women on their business and then that helps them help other women. And, it just like, and then I'm also paying a house cleaner who helps her family with that money. It like makes no sense why I would be the one doing it when I have an ability, right, to pay for it and work in another way. I mean, we get to do whatever. And I'm not trying to say I'm justifying it, but like, it makes no sense. If I don't enjoy it, but someone else does, and I can bless their lives, and while she's cleaning my house, I can bless someone else's life. whether it's playing with my kids or actually working, like if you have that ability, that's where you need to say, like, what can I delegate? What can I give out? What can I defer? What can I not be doing in my life anymore that isn't really contributing to my overall, balance and priorities?
Yeah, exactly. So good. All right. Well, we could geek out on this all day. Was there something else that we talked about we were going to talk about that you want to make sure we get to? There was the unforeseen circumstance thing.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? It's kind of long-winded. So do you want to do it? I could have a lot to say on it.
Yeah. Well, when's your next appointment?
I don't
listeners
have
are just
11. Yeah. They're like, wait,
they're just in the carpool lane, right?
Yeah.
Waiting for
the kids out.
to come out.
I would love to talk about it if you're.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just totally. Because it was really interesting, because as I was typing out this question, like you had the question, and for you listeners, I like to think about it ahead of time, right? Just what I'm going to say. And then, but I got a phone call from a daughter that her car was broken into and they tried to hotwire it. Right. And so it's just right. And so I was like, well, here we go. So I'm like, perfect life scenario.
Yeah.
So one thing that we can just do is just realizing that, as our life circumstances change, right? So do like our priorities, right? And so one thing that I can share with you, and then we'll kind of talk about like when you're in the middle of a circumstance, is just that when sometimes our life just changes naturally, maybe it's not that we're unaware of the circumstance, but you went from 1 kid to 2 kids to 3 kids, right? When we're not aware that we're choosing different actions, right? We're choosing different things to complement our priorities, then that's when we're going to blame ourselves. So just remember, like the mom you are now is choosing what you're doing, and it looks very different from the mom of 1. And it looks very different from the mom that maybe wasn't growing her business. But when we realize, hey, I'm choosing these new actions, right? Then we can stop thinking like, oh, I'm dropping the ball, right? I'm not doing enough. I used to play Legos with my kids, and now my 3rd and 4th and 5th kids or whatever don't get the Lego playing mom. Right. Well, but they also get a fulfilled mom, and they also get a mom that's helping other moms. Right. So there's always like a trade-off, but I don't mean in a negative way. Like, yeah, we don't play Legos, but we do this, and our kids can always sometimes be grateful for that. So just remember, like the mom that you were with 1 kid, or the mom you are with 4 kids, or the mom you were, working versus not working, it's going to be very different. And that doesn't matter. Right. Like that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Right. So just like, that's the first thing about that. But here's another thing that I think is what, as women, we don't like, what's the right terminology? Like we imagine our life, and we imagine usually like getting married and having kids, and then it just kind of stops. Like we don't imagine more of what's going to happen, and that's okay. But when life doesn't happen that way, whatever it is, because we just imagined we're just going to get married and have a life and have kids, right? But then we're thinking like good moms should be doing this, good moms should be doing that. We think that they're able to do this, I should be able to do this, right? And so then what happens is we are comparing ourselves to, like, again, past versions of ourselves, or what we think other people's lives are. Like I had mentioned, like the carpooling mom may have just been going to school or going to work, so she drops her kids off, but we don't know that. So we're just comparing ourselves to that. Right. So when we feel like our life isn't turning out the way we expected it, or we have this unforeseen circumstance, like, right, like a child that made a silly decision and ended up getting her car, destroyed. Right. But when we think thoughts like, if our life's going through that, it's not supposed to be this way, right? It's not supposed to happen this way. What did I do wrong to cause this? Right. Lots of times I might hear like, how could, and then a person or like a higher power or like Heavenly Father or God, right? How could they allow this to happen? Right. If they loved me, they wouldn't have done this. What are people going to think about us now? Right. So all of those things are what I call emotion stacking, because the circumstance that you already went through is probably pretty hard, right? It's pretty difficult, this unseen circumstance. But when you have those thoughts, like, it's not supposed to happen this way, how could so-and-so or God or whatever let this happen? Then we're going to take the actual circumstance that's happening, and those thoughts, we're going to layer on more emotion with those thoughts, which then is going to make the situation feel harder. And so what we call that is fighting against reality, right? Because reality is what's truly happening. Remember, I talked about math and drama. So what's truly happening is, your circumstance, right? Like my daughter left her car overnight in a mall parking lot, right? Not what I think should be happening. Like she shouldn't have done that. She should have like not stayed over at her friend's house. Like, why didn't she take her backpack with her computer out of her car, right? Like that's the shoulds, right? But if I just go back to what's happening, then we're not fighting against reality. And then that allows us to be more creative to actually solve the problem.
Yeah.
So for example, my daughter with this frustrating, annoying situation, um, she could be right thinking about herself in this situation, like, oh, I'm such an idiot, or, why did I leave my backpack in my car? I'm so stupid. She even could have said like, why do bad things always happen to me? Which is like then playing that victim role, right? Instead of being in the role of solving the problem, now she's in a victim role. She could have even deflected, right? And said, you know what? This isn't my fault. This is the fault of the bad person that decided to go, try to steal my car. And so as parents, I want to give you the flip side too, right? Could also have reacted in a way. So we want to make sure that we're not reacting and giving ourselves, the I should have done it differently, and really beating ourselves up. Yeah. Right. If there's a situation, but also like if this is a kid situation or a spouse, right. And they did it and you're seeing the other end, right. I could have thought like, oh my gosh, she's so irresponsible. I could have thought like, she is lazy. I could have yelled at her and like, you're lazy. Why did you leave your backpack in your car? You know better than that. Why did you leave it overnight at a mall parking lot? That's stupid, right? All those things which are blaming, they're not helpful. They are destructive, right? And so because those aren't facts, right? Those are all just thoughts. They don't help solve the circumstance. And as I mentioned, they add an extra layer of emotion. That was a hard thing for me to say, on top of an already like crappy situation.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's just kind of like noticing that when we are going something hard, just, okay, what is happening? How can I fix it? And don't worry about all the little thoughts that are going to come up that, I did this wrong, or they did this wrong, or they're rude, or people are going to think bad of me. I mean, yeah, our brain's going to come up with that, but just be like, but that's not, and none of that is helpful to allowing us to solve this situation with creativity, with patience, right? In the way that we want to. And so that's just like my best advice. Like, it's still sucky. It's still crappy that her car is, who knows where it's lost in some tow yard. They can't find it because it got towed somewhere else. And it's not at the auto body shop like it's supposed to be, like all these weird things. But the fact is, this happened. This is what we can learn from it. And this is what we can do to either make it better or change it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I have similar experiences with toddlers in the fact that I know why they say you don't need to cry over spilled milk. I'm like, I'm pitching a fit over them making a mess, essentially. Right. And I'm like, you do need to cry over spilled milk because it's in the carpet. You know how hard that is to get out, and the stench and all the things. And the emotion stacking, right? Like, if I'm not already in a like sane place, then spilled milk in the carpet is going to just totally throw me off, So yeah, all of this is very good.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can like, okay, I don't want spilled milk. This is crappy.
But whatever, fighting the reality
about your kids, right? Like, they should know better. They shouldn't be in here with their milk. They should, like all of that.
How many thousands of times have I told them to keep milk in the kitchen? Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the crying comes in, right? Like that extra layer stacking. But we can still, be like, oh, this sucks. This isn't what I wanted to do today.
Yeah.
But the emotion stacking is all the blame, all the victim, all the whatever.
Yeah. And so instead of fighting with all of that brain drama, and trying to like manage those 9 million thoughts that just came up when my brain hack is to just be like, that happened. So I'm not fighting with reality and losing every time. I just accept, well, that happened, or he just did that, or, and then I like accept that there's milk there and I get busy cleaning it up versus I pitch my own temper tantrum about it. And so that's one of my quick hacks is, yep, that happened. That. Oh, he said that. Oh, no, he didn't is what I want to be. But yes, he did. Just say that. Okay. And then I can kind of
keeps you from saying and acting in ways that you might regret.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you just did what, rather than, okay, that happened. Now what's next? I could have yelled at her, but what was that going to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because in my journey of figuring out what thoughts are leading to my feelings, I've realized I don't have to look that far. It's usually shooting out my mouth. Like the thoughts are coming straight out.
I know exactly what's causing it. Yes.
Anyway. Okay. So good. What else?
I think we did a great job. I mean, talked about balance and unexpected circumstances. I mean, I don't know. Those are kind of what moms are facing right now.
For sure. Yeah. So in an effort to trying to be balanced, I really like this analogy that balance is like patience, because that's what I always say. I always thought that patience was something you had to like pray for and hope to be blessed with. And there was definitely a limited amount in the day and all the things. And so all the ways I was thinking about patience got like blown when I realized patience is a feeling and feelings come from your thoughts.
Yeah.
And same with balance. Because what even is balance? It's kind of like a relationship. It's just sort of a mental construct. So when you put it in the feeling line, then it's like, oh, I can feel balanced once I know that my priorities are in line and I'm doing what I want, not what I feel like I should do and all the things. So
Yeah.
that was
And
so
where it's
helpful.
lovely, you can say, I'm a patient mom, or I feel patient, or I want to feel patient. I love how you said, like, oh, that happened. That's what a patient mom is going to say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I feel frustrated, irritated, annoyed, all the go-tos when I'm pitching that fit from all the thoughts in my head. And I don't have to argue with those thoughts and try to like come up with band-aid thoughts on top of that. It's like, yeah, of course my brain's going to think that, but let's just come back to the reality that this happened.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
I
how I
have a
feel.
special cleaner that can get out spilled milk and I get to use it today. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
we're accepting that it's our favorite thing and we're so excited. It just leaves us in, as you said, like proactive thoughts of like, okay, let's clean up the mess.
Yeah.
Because if not, we're going to go maybe yell at our kids. Well, we're just making a second mess.
Yes.
Right. That we then get to go clean up.
Yes.
And say, I'm sorry, or I'm a bad mom, or whatever we're going to say. Right. So just
And
like
I am still a
the
good
one
mom.
mess. Yes, exactly. I'm sorry I yelled at you and I'm still a good mom.
Yeah.
Which
My
is
kids.
true, because telling them sorry is also a step that we have to, no, we don't have to, but we can choose to, right? To be like, good moms make mistakes sometimes, and
For
good
sure.
moms can say that they're sorry sometimes, right?
Yeah. All the time. Frequently.
Yeah.
Yes. So good. Okay. Tell everybody how they can get more Siri.
More Siri. Well, if you're not using your phone, then just just kidding. Come over to Instagram. It's just Siri Pain Coaching. My website's the same. Facebook's the same. So CERI Pain Coaching. I'm more active on Instagram. So if you want to hang out with me, come there.
Awesome. So fun. Do you have a fun freebie right now?
You know, right now I have I have a lot. So I have 24 ways to save 24 hours this month. So if you
Oh,
just go to
nice.
my link in my bio, that is there. It's a lot of batching, hacking for the moms, tons of podcasts that you can listen to. What else do I have? I have a
Yeah.
goal.
What's your podcast called?
I don't have a
What do
podcast,
people,
but I have a
what do you,
podcast
oh, yeah.
because I just guest podcast. And so I have, so my link in bio will send you to all of this, but there's a
Okay,
goal
good.
setting one that I have there. And then I also have the 3 things every successful entrepreneur needs on their schedule. And so those are some freebies floating around in my link in bio. You can check any of them out if any of those titles sounded exciting to you.
Yeah, they all do. I'm all over it.
Okay.
Gonna be busy tapping into more Siri. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I will just mention, because I don't have an outro when we post video. First, let me mention you can watch the video on Spotify, and I'll upload it to my YouTube if I remember. So it might be there eventually. But right away on Spotify, you can watch the video and see the balance and pencil that we were kind of talking about, but you can actually see it. And then if you want to learn more about how to believe you are a good mom, hit up my freebie at dropthewarlifecoach.com/believe.
I love it.
And it's the time of year for believing.
Yes, it
I got
is.
Josh Groban singing in my head as soon as I said that. So, okay. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks again, Siri.
You're welcome.